Prime Minister Trudeau seems to be having a bit of a tough time here, including, of course, his flight is still not taken off because I believe there is a technical snag. A second flight is on its way, and the earliest he'll be able to leave India is Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon. But let me ask, Professor Chellaney, and then after that to Ambassador Ashok Kantha this. The idea, and Trudeau was asked a question about this, there was a very strongly worded statement from the Prime Minister's office about this whole business of Khalistan elements and supporting of Khalistan elements. But at the press conference, Professor Chellaney, Trudeau made this out to be a freedom of expression issue. How can it be a freedom of expression issue when one side is actively calling for the secession from the Indian state? That's not a freedom of expression issue.
You're absolutely right. It's the fact that elements based in Canada are openly inciting violence against Indian diplomatic assets, against Indian diplomats. They're calling for violence. So this is about security, international security. How would Canada react if India allowed Canadian secessionists to threaten its diplomats based in New Delhi or other places in India? But this has been happening repeatedly in Canada. And also, Indians have been attacked, their places of worship have been attacked in Canada, and this has been going on for so long. The fact is that Canada has become a hub of radical Sikh extremists. There are actually terrorists engaged in drug trafficking and other crimes, and that the Trudeau government, because of its coalition compulsions, it is in alliance with the radical Sikhs to stay in office, and therefore it turns a blind eye to their activities. This is the unfortunate
reality. So is it coalition compulsions alone, Ambassador Kant? Because we saw such attacks not just in Canada, we saw it in Australia, we saw it in the UK, most famously outside the Indian High Commission. But those governments, A, have acted and be seen to be acting against these elements. And more importantly, you don't hear the Prime Minister of Britain or the Prime Minister of Australia saying that this is a freedom of expression issue.
No, Canada is in a different category. In a way, they have been a serial offender on this issue. There is a recurring pattern of behavior which is very objectionable in our point of view. That's why Prime Minister raised it so strongly with Prime Minister Trudeau, and also we put out a statement conveying our unhappiness with the Canadian position. But Jacka, if you permit, I would like to just comment on a couple of the issues which came up earlier. We need to understand why US-led West decided to go along with a formulation which is relatively moderate compared to Bali template. To my mind, there are three important considerations there. One, of course, people have talked about, India hosting it. They didn't want India summit hosted by India to be less than successful. But there are a couple of other very important considerations. One, Global South, that India, sort of projected Global South as the central theme of this summit. In fact, it's G20 presidency. West is getting this idea that they're losing Global South. They need to take on board concerns and aspirations of Global South. They can't focus exclusively on issues like Ukraine. That explains why they're willing to, dilute the position. Thirdly, if there had been no, joint declaration coming out of New Delhi summit, this would have, to some extent, weakened the position of G20. And G20 is a very important platform, not only for Western countries, but for others as well. This is the premier international forum for economic cooperation. So all these considerations persuaded Western countries to go along with a relatively diluted formulation, and China also didn't want to antagonize global South. So there was, I think India played its cards very well, took help of Indonesia, Brazil and South Africa, the previous chair and two incoming presidents of G20, and together these emerging countries, as Dr. Jaishankar put it, played a very influential role in shaping the outcome of
let
G20.
me